Okay, here is your Chapter 7, Lesson 1 notes on the distributive property. Chapter begins on page 292, where you can see the definitions for equivalent expressions and the distributive property. They show you how to model it, but I will teach you this in the next slide. On page 292 in your books, you guys can see example 1 for parts A and B, how they describe to you how to distribute when it's an addition and a subtraction problem. I will teach you on parts 1A and 1B for the got it section by doing it with you. Okay, in 1A we have the factor of 4. That factor of 4 is going to get multiplied to both of your terms on the inside of the parentheses. So I'm going to take 4, multiply it to the 6, and add that to 4, multiply it to the 3. So this may seem a little stupid to you because you think it's easier to just add 6 plus 3 and then multiply it to the 4. But don't forget we're learning the procedure in order to apply this procedure later on. So of course it's going to be easy. So now I'm going to solve 4 times 6 is 24. 4 times 3 is 12. Add those together, you get 36. Next we have 1b. Now we have a fraction that's going to get multiplied to these whole numbers. So you have to be able to multiply a fraction to a whole number. So if those skills are lacking, you need to get some of that practice. I'm going to take 3/4 times 9. Then subtract 3/4 times 2. 3 times 9 is 27. 3 times 2 is 6. 26/4 minus 6/4 leaves us with 21 over 4. When I simplify, I get 5 and 1/4. Let's move on. Okay, here they're introducing you to maybe one of the reasons why we do distributive property. So read this example before we move on to actually practicing. You'll find this on page 293. So in the real world, we use distributive property as mental math, especially when dealing with money. So here we've got a dinner with Sharita, her brother, and her two parents, or her parents. So that's 4 people. So if we look at 4 people times 10 plus the 25 cents, we can clearly estimate that 4 times 10 is 40, and that 4 times 25 cents, well, that's just $1. Okay, so then we can easily estimate that dinner is going to cost $41. And then part B, well, what if they add on dessert? So you still have 4 people. Cut that $1.50 in 2 parts, so you have the dollar part and then you have the cents part. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 50 cents is $2. So that's essentially $6 for dessert. Now add the 2 together, the $41 for the dinner, the $6 for the dessert, and you're getting $47 that they have to pay for their bill. So basically you're just doing this distributive property and splitting up your numbers into 2 workable outcomes. Next on our page in our books on page 293 and this slide, it's basically introducing to you a variable into the expressions. Let's get some practice with that. So even though they show you in example 3 on page 294 how to distribute with the variables inside the parentheses, I'll get some practice with you down below. For the got it question 3A, the 2.4 is our factor, which is getting multiplied to each term on the inside. So we're going to take 2.4 times A plus 2.4 times 5. So 2.4 times A, those are being multiplied together. So this is how it looks like when you multiply them together, 2.4a. You can't actually solve it because you don't know what a is. So you just leave it as 2.4a. And then 2.4 times 5 That just becomes 12. Okay, so you can't add these together because you cannot add a number with a letter to a number without a letter. So this is actually our answer, which is just a simplified version of our original expression. Okay, let's try 3b. So 3 is the factor that is going to get multiplied to both the terms on the inside. So we're going to have 3 times b plus 3 times 6. So 3 times b is just going to be 3b. 3 times 6 is going to be 18. So 3b plus 18 is our simplified version, and you can't go any farther than that. Moving on. Okay, here we've got subtraction. So instead of adding, now we've got subtraction in order to get used to negative numbers. So down below, forgot it for A. Let's go ahead and just jump right into it. We've got 2/3 times D minus 2/3 times 3. So 2/3 D is going to stay that way since we don't know what D is. 2/3 of 3, well, that's 2 times 3 is 6. 6 divided by 3 is 2. And this is our simplified version. This is as far as we can go since you cannot combine those two terms because one has a letter, one does not. 4b, we've got -7 times e minus -7 times 4. So -7e minus -7 times +4, that's -28. Okay, so -7e stays the same. Now here we're going to make this a plus 28. We're going to apply the additive inverse property because, believe it or not, this is the simplified way of writing everything. It's actually considered simpler to write it as an addition problem than subtracting a negative. Okay? All right, let's do guided practice at the bottom of page 294. Go ahead and on a sheet of paper do 1 through 9, and then when you're ready for your answers, go ahead and resume play for the answers. Okay, all of my work is down below. Check your answers, correct any mistakes that you might have, and move on. Next thing you got to do is independent practice, page 295, numbers 1 through 24.